Pauline, do you know I just renewed my car insurance
Well
and
done.
it cost me a bomb. The car value is at 80K right now, so my insurance value is still high. I mean, my cover law,
Your
sum assured.
premium?
Yes, my premium is still high.
Right. Hey, you know what? It's actually very interesting that every year, for those of us who drive, right, we have to review and, to get our car insurance done. But the question is, when was the last time you actually assessed your own risk, Rachel?
Okay, that's a really good question. Something to think about. Hi everyone, welcome back to episode 5 of Smart Women Finance. We are the go-to girls. My name is Rockin Rachel, and with me we have Pauline Teoh, who is a licensed financial planner, and I am an insurance advisor. So together we run this podcast called Smart Women Finance, where we aim to actually help women out there empower themselves through financial awareness. So whether you are a working adult or whether you're married or currently a mother of a few kids, you are most welcome to listen to this podcast because we definitely have tips and tricks to help you manage your everyday finances.
We would like to inform you that whatever discussed in this topic and in this podcast is completely general advice or based on our own personal experience and opinions. If you are facing any financial issues, we do recommend that you seek consultation with a licensed financial planner. Thank you.
So the question that we have for you ladies out there today would be, is my car more valuable than me? So what do you guys think?
That's a really good question, right? Because looking at today's, looking at Malaysia, where car insurance is actually a mandatory, actually many of us would say our car is more valuable than me because automatically all of us would have a car insurance the moment we have a car, but not all of us have personal insurance, correct or not?
Yeah.
So,
or maybe more correctly put would be people would have insurance, but the only thing is we may not have the adequate cover.
Correct.
That we really need. Like, for example, you know the value of your car and you're able to make sure that you're covered exactly for the value it's worth. Just in case something happens to the car, you get money
covered.
back or it's fully covered, right? But how many of us can say that 100% for sure for our very own lives and also for the needs of our family?
Yeah, that is actually a really good one. So I want to ask you, Pauline, we get a car insurance because, we know the risk that is posed to the car. Accident, we don't want to pay for that damage in the car. Or even like recently, we see a lot of floods happening, right? Which is a potential threat already to our cars. So we do add in special perils like flood cover and windscreen, all those kind of things are added towards the car insurance. But we know those kind of risks pose a threat to our car, but what are the actual risks that pose a threat to our own lives?
That's a very good question, Rachel. I would say there will be 4 major areas for any working adult, to really be thinking about.
Enlighten me.
Okay, I think the first and foremost would be premature death. I think last year itself, we saw, actually not last, just last 2 years, right? Thanks to the COVID pandemic, we have lost quite a number of loved ones, or at least people that we know that means a lot to us due to the pandemic itself, right? So I would consider that one of the areas, which is actually premature death. Another potential area that can actually hit us could potentially be, for example, in accidental cases. Things that we never planned for, but shit happens sometimes, doesn't it? So I would say those would be the other area that, unforeseen circumstances that happens to us, okay, or even our family members. The third area I would say would be in terms of health. If you're really ill due to whatever sickness, then potentially that could also slow us down and hold us back, in terms of progressions, right? And last but not least, and we saw this a lot in the pandemic as well, is that people getting pay cuts or even getting unemployed. During critical situations or dire situations like what we have just recently gone through. Right? I would say these would commonly be the 4 areas that could potentially happen to any one of us. Would you not agree, Rachel?
Yeah, actually, obviously there's other risks. Smaller risks, but these are the main four ones lah. That is if it happens, it does hit us very hard,
That's
right?
right.
So, and it causes a major financial loss.
That's
So,
true.
but today's session, right, for those of you listening, we are not just trying to brainwash you to buy insurance. No, that's not what we're trying to do here. What we're going to do now is we're going to do a little fun activity. We're going to look at what are other avenues or other alternatives that you may have besides insurance to protect yourself against these four main risks. And then you can decide for yourself whether insurance is really something you want to get or not. Right.
Yeah.
So
I think we're going to do some kind of assessment today, right? Through a fun activity, right?
yeah,
So I think maybe what we could do is let's analyze a little bit on the different types of risk
management techniques.
Yes, correct. That we all face on a daily basis and how to really mitigate or even manage it the best way we could, if that makes sense. Right. So maybe Rachel, you can tell me what are some of the risk areas that we can actually mitigate or even control over.
Okay, so there are actually 4 techniques that you can use in this assessment for, right? So the first one is risk control. Now, risk control means that you reduce the severe no, that's too technical. How I say it? Reduce the amount that you're going to lose. So for example, let's just take a car, okay? Now, if let's say there is a risk of meeting into an accident, right? So what do you do? What can you do to reduce the loss of the loss amount towards the car? You could, number one, make sure your car is always up to date in terms of service, right? And you can actually ensure that your car is equipped with safety measures like a airbag, bumper, and to
brakes
absorb the
working.
shock. Yeah. So these are things that if you were to maintain it well, even if a crash happens, right, comparing to a person that does not take care of this at all, you would be impacted far lesser than a person who never took care of this at all. So this is the whole idea of risk control. You're trying to reduce, if this thing were to happen or so, at least it doesn't happen so big. It's a small amount.
Actually, Rachel, would it also mean that when we are driving on the road, we follow speed limits as well?
Yes, that's actually another way to reduce the loss. Even if, let's say, comparing to you driving 100 km and hit something compared to you driving at 40 km, the loss is definitely lesser on a 40 km speed limit, correct. Right? Correct. So this is how, even though if let's say sometimes there's no way to control, like the car in front of you emergency brakes, you got no way to let's fly over the car, right? You gotta just hit the car. Yeah. So that is where this kind of if you practice good habits like this, you can really reduce the loss that you may face. I would say that you may face. So how does this come back to our own lives? Now, just now we spoke about death. We spoke about illnesses. We spoke about these 2 areas. Let's touch on these 2 first. So if we were to regularly take care of our health, go for health checkups, do some exercises, regular exercises, don't you think you're actually reducing the chances of you getting hit by a severe illness or a severe, or rather an illness that could lead to death, right? We would definitely reduce it drastically. Like you see in today's, actually in Malaysia, right? If you notice, just take a look next time when you're driving, how many dialysis centers do you see available around? There are many, there are really a lot. True. And when you sit down in a restaurant, take a close look, right, at what are the nutritions that are being offered in your meal. The main component of those nutritions is carbohydrate, right? And that's a normal, look in the pyramid chart, right? But we Malaysians, we tend to overeat those nutritions, we tend to overeat carbohydrates. So you see a lot of obesity cases happening around.
And I think just to add on to that as well, right? When we eat outside, especially when we talk about drinks and dessert, it's actually very heavy in terms of free load of sugar. Yeah. That actually adds on to the obesity condition as well, don't you think?
Correct. Yeah? If you take us normal, when we eat maybe nasi lemak, for example, and we will always like to have it with teh tarik. Correct. Or even roti canai, so it's teh tarik. It's like a set meal, you know. But if you go to a Japanese restaurant, what do you notice? They serve you green tea.
Yes.
Right. So you see, teh tarik, how much of sugar level is there compared to green tea? Right.
Yeah.
So you already know the lifestyle of Malaysia. We have a huge risk potential towards getting this diabetes, kidney failures because of our lifestyle. So if we can really take care of our lifestyle, we would reduce the amount
falling ill, right?
Yes, the percentage of falling ill. But it does not guarantee that we will stay healthy. But this is the minimum. I mean, not the minimum,
least we can do.
The least we could do.
Correct.
Right? Yeah. So this is one way of managing the risk.
Yeah.
What is the other way? Do you know, Pauline?
Okay, I think the other way we have would be risk avoiding, right? We just avoid the risk the best we can. We try to dodge it and we try to avoid it, right? But I would say if we talk about risk avoidance especially a time like COVID, would be the best is don't go out at all, right? Just be quarantined and stay home forever.
Bubble wrap yourself.
Yeah, bubble wrap yourself. No contact with the world out there. And that would be one way you tell yourself, hey, I think I'm safe, right? What else could happen to me if I'm at home? What's the chances of me getting COVID positive? It most probably be 0.000.
Yeah, but actually you'll be surprised, Pauline. There were many cases where people reported they never went out at all, but they contracted the virus because of the delivery, the delivery guys that were coming to their house. So so even risk avoidance is there's still a glitch, but it's the least you can do, right? If you really want to stay safe.
Again, that's not really how we want to live life, right? Like being quarantined forever at home, it's almost like self-torture. What's the difference than being in a dungeon?
Yeah, right. We might as well be just call ourselves Rapunzel and stay in a tower.
That's not really what we want. That's not life. Come on, right? So I think that's the second thing. If let's say we're talking about the second risk. So what about the third risk, Rachel?
So the third risk would be risk retention. So this way of retention means you retain it, right? That means you absorb the risk. So this is like, okay, coming back to the car, for example. So if let's say, as you know, your car insurance has NCD, right? So you have that discount. So sometimes if you meet a minor accident, maybe your bumper is just damaged a bit or what, you won't really go and claim your insurance because it's a minor cost. So you are able to self-insure yourself, I would say, to fund that repair cost, because funding that repair cost is way lesser than you losing out that discount, right? So this is where we would want to look into how can we retain the risk. Similarly, like if you were to talk to maybe when we are talking about the risk of COVID, as you know, COVID, right? Not many insurance companies actually cover COVID in terms of hospitalization. And even if they do, it's after a certain category only. Right. So like nowadays, you see so many people getting hit with COVID category 1 and 2A, right? Yep. So, but the costing of getting COVID is not cheap, right? You have to pay for your PCR test. That's already like 200 ringgit. And mind you, the vitamins from the pharmacy to actually get you treated, right, is not cheap. Right, you can easily expect 500 ringgit to go out just like that, just because of COVID for one person. And if it's a whole family, it's worse, because if there's 5 people in the family and all positive, the more costing. So because we don't have any other alternative, you have to absorb this risk. You have to set aside an emergency funding just so that if a situation like COVID were to happen, you have the ready funds there to help your family, help yourself. Right.
So that would mean that by doing or taking these actions, you will not eat into your current savings or your current cash flow, because you already kind of provisioned for it, in one way or another. Right?
Yes. So the key idea when you're using the technique of absorbing the risk or self-insuring, I like to call it self-insuring yourself, always remember to set aside a separate funding. Don't use it, I'm saving for my house, or this is also going to be the savings for in case I get COVID, because that's not going to help you at all move towards your goals, right?
That's right. And I think the last risk, if anything at all, would be basically, transferring this risk, right? Instead of absorbing on our own or having to manage on our own, I give it to a third party now in order to take care of those bills or to make whatever payments. And I'm basically living my life worry-free. Okay,
Correct.
so this is where in the area of health, what we would suggest most Malaysians should do would be to get a decent medical card, because as we know it, medical expenses only gets more expensive over time. And
Yeah.
we know for a fact that this little factory here, there's a lot of wear and tear over a period of time. So this car does need servicing. Okay, so should touch wood, but should in the future an overhaul situation were to happen or some kind of major breakdown were to happen, we have the medical card to come and rescue us.
Yes, but it's
Yeah.
not just medical. Like earlier, so when Pauline actually asked me the question, like, is your car more valuable than you, right? So, I mean, think about this for a while, like if you were to lose your car today or yesterday, let's just say yesterday, can you potentially buy another car in a few years' time? You can, right? Why can you?
Yeah.
Because you still have
Actually, come think about it. Since my car is insured, I should be able to get a replacement car almost ASAP. So I don't think there's going to be a major issue for the car to be replaced.
But let's just say you didn't have insurance.
Yeah.
Can you still buy a car?
That's definitely a possibility, because as long as I'm working, I'm able to fund for that car.
Yeah, you're still able to fund for the car, right? So that's the whole point. You are still able to fund because you are working. Now, what if you are no longer receiving a passive income? Can you
unable to even work because of health conditions or
sorry, not passive income, active income. It means your work, whatever that's you're coming in. So you're not able to bring in income. Can you then finance not alone your car, but your car insurance for that matter? You can't, right?
Yeah.
So which is the greater thing to protect here? Your car, firstly, or your income?
Definitely, we need to protect our income, because if we are the money-making machine to get the income that we need to finance or even to take care of the current lifestyle that we're dreaming and thinking of, definitely I'm more important than a car, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So this is where we want to, when we look at the 4 risk techniques that we've just seen, right? Now, how do we evaluate whether or not we really need insurance, or for what reasons we need insurance? Now, just now we posed to you 4 main risks, right? Death, accidental, what do you call this? Great illnesses, and also unemployment. Now, unemployment is something that doesn't usually last forever. It's probably for a few months, maybe 3 to 6 months, right? That is where Pauline Teoh here would strongly agree that you take a look into your emergency
funding.
Emergency funding, right? So this would act as a risk retention area already. You are setting aside funds to always ensure that if this situation were to happen, you would be able to, because the cost of you buying insurance for such a small short-term thing would be more than you actually losing the income. So it doesn't make sense to insure such a risk. But things like an illness where it may run in the hundreds or even 500,000, it could come to that level depending on what illness is it.
How severe it is.
Yeah, it is cheaper to buy an insurance plan and pay and save for it through that rather than you pay the bill at the end of the day. Right. So this is how you can think like when is the right time should an insurance policy come into place to help you, or when is the right time that you can save it yourself. So if you can generate a savings, 500,000 savings right now as you snap your finger, then I would say you don't need insurance. But if you need time to build that cash flow, use insurance first to help you get that money ready. Then, you don't even have to save up for such a thing like illnesses. You can save up for your actual goals, right? If an illness were to happen, your goals is still protected because the money is coming in to support you to go through that journey.
Precisely. I think this is something for all of us to start thinking about as well. And even regardless whether or not you think insurance is for me or it's really not a necessity, even the bare basics of eating right, sleeping well, having the great peace of mind, making sure that, you exercise. I think those are just elementary process to aid us to have better and more meaningful, healthier lives as well. So I
Yeah.
think overall, I would say in life, we need to strike a really good balance, in terms of all aspects. Okay. And these little steps are within our control. Okay. So what we are trying to say is that insurance could also be a potential tool for you to consider if you want to help yourself in order to take care of bigger expenses, something that you don't want it to affect your personal savings, okay, and you think that that would be a much more efficient way of managing your money, then transfer that risk to an insurance company that can do that job for you instead of paying it from your pocket.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Definitely.
So
So,
yeah.
now we've just done the simple assessment exercise. Now I know it can be a bit more difficult for some of us because we have different goals. So we don't know actually how do we assess the risk, how do we plan out the risk, right? So that is why me and Pauline would like to offer you a free risk assessment check. Now, what we will do in this risk assessment check is we will go through some of your goals, right? We will discuss how can we set reasonable goals in a reasonable amount of time, and let's analyze together what areas are potential risks towards this goal, and what are your solutions. We've looked at 4 solutions, right? So what are your solutions that could be suitable for you to mitigate this risk to ensure that your goal has a better chance of being realized?
Yep.
Right? Yeah.
Yep.
So come and do find the link in our description below for this free risk assessment test so that you can get started on your own planning today.
Totally agree. So if you have any questions with regards to any of this discussion areas, feel free as well to drop us a line and ask us any questions you may have.
Yeah, so please don't forget to also join our community channel if you're new here for the first time. We have a community channel on Facebook called Smart Women Finance. And in that community channel, you will actually see a lot of valuable things, value added information, even people there who are all aligned to get their finances on track. So if you journey with people who are in the same goal mindset as you have a better potential at reaching those goals. All right.
Yeah.
So with that, we would like to say thank you so much and see you in the next episode.